Good evening and welcome to Talking Songs with me, Roland Jones. This is our 71st edition. Gosh, doesn't time fly when you're having fun, as they say. Oh yes. So what's new in the world, Roland? Oh, I don't know. Not very much. It feels cold. I'm fed up with feeling cold already, and it's only just started November. But there you go. That's what we have in store for us. But what I've got in store for you this evening is Mr. Steve McGrady, who's going to be chatting to me in a short while with some interesting stuff on songwriting. As do all my guests, I'm happy to say. And I'm going to start off with a little. A kind of a bit of a self-referential song, really, because it's called In the Words of a Song. Wonder if you miss me, I miss me too. But the best part of me was taken with you. I wonder if you miss me, even notice I've gone. But I gave you the best of me in the words of a song. Dedicated a song to you, a song that wasn't sad. Gave you 100% of me, offered you all that I had. Might not have seemed very, very much, but it's all I had to give. I would have given you much more if I could, but you know that's all that there is. Wonder if you miss me, I miss me too. But the best part of me was taken with you. Wonder if you miss me, even notice I've gone. But I gave you the best of me in the words of a song. Started out writing songs of love, words poured out from the heart. You do not think about grammar, this is life, not some art. Suddenly the words have changed, you're coming from a different point of view. You pretend they're written by someone else, but that someone else is still you. Wonder if you miss me, I miss me too. But the best part of me was taken with you. Wonder if you miss me, even notice I've gone. But I gave you the best of me in the words of a song. Always tried to do my best. I've been good more than I've been bad. The times we loved and laughed together was the best time I've ever had. I've always had the good food to eat, and I've never been rich nor poor. In my life the worst I felt was when I heard you close that door. Wonder if you miss me, I miss me too. But the best part of me was taken with you. Wonder if you miss me, even notice I've gone. But I gave you the best of me in the words of a song. Dee, dee. Okay, and now I'd like to introduce in the studio my guest for this evening, Mr. Steve McGrady. Evening, Stephen.
Hi, Roland. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. How are you doing?
Not so bad considering
Not
I've just
so
moved
bad.
house.
Interesting. We were talking about comedy some time ago, and I saw a wonderful thing from Bill Bailey the other day, and he was talking about the difference between Australians and Brits. And he was saying about, you say to an Australian, how are they? And they go, awesome, mate, awesome. And he says, but Brits, we say, not bad. And he said, and to qualify that, we might say, not bad, considering, all things considered. And then he goes into this monologue about, you've considered everything. You've considered the tears of a child. You've considered the wonders of the universe. You've considered the ridiculous fact that LinkedIn is still going. And he just does this. It's absolutely, you just got to check it out. It's brilliant. Anyway, enough about my entertainment. What are you up to then, Steve, apart from moving house?
Well, apart from moving house, clearly I'm being true to my culture, which is, that's good, right?
That's true. That's true.
Because I lived in the States for a few years, and when you move abroad for a while, you tend to assimilate, I think, and you pick up figures of speech and.
Oh God, yeah.
Even you get infected by the accent. Well, I used to live in South Wales, and we still have Welsh sayings that me and my wife use. And,
do you?
Yeah. Particularly, and we say to people, if they've never been, we'll say, did you know that if you're ill, you'll say you're under the doctor?
Yeah. God, I've not heard that for a long time.
It was a long time ago that we lived there.
Oh wow, it was a long time ago when I lived there actually. Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, Steve, what about you and music, and then where does that come from?
Where does that come from? Well,
where did it start?
I was giving that some thought actually as part of the move, because when you move house, you discover all sorts of junk and rubbish that you've accumulated that you thought you got rid of and you hadn't. So somewhere along the line, I've acquired my grandparents' and parents' collections of 78 RPM shellac discs. So my grandfather was a DJ before there was such a thing as a DJ.
Right.
And he used to have his portable gramophone, and he used to play strict time dance records. People would do the waltz and the foxtrot and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's probably where it was.
What did he? Would he go to ballrooms and do it, or for parties, or what?
Probably not as grand as a ballroom, but the kind of place where we might go to a folk club or an open mic. A social.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I've never come across that before.
And play a waltz, and away they go. A bit of Mantovani, or that was up in Scotland. So there would also be Jimmy Shand.
Yeah.
And his accordion. Polkas and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, fantastic. So I mean, I do remember at a very early age, whether this is me remembering it or whether it was me having this memory kind of created because the story was repeated so many times. But apparently I used to nag my grandmother terribly to play this particular record called Old Time Religion, which was, I think, an old American kind of gospel-y.
I was going to say, it sounds like a gospel-y thing.
Yeah, it's very, very simple, very, very simple song. But this particular version was by a band called the Clyde Valley Stompers, who were part of the skiffle movement in Glasgow in the 1950s. And so when I was, I guess 2 years old, 3 years old, something like that, apparently I used to just say, play Legion, play Legion, play Legion. And she had to put this record on over
Legion,
and over,
that's
over
lovely.
and over and over again. And I found it. It's here in this collection, and that's probably where it started. I've liked music really since a very, very young age. Always dancing and singing along. And
what about in terms of actually playing music? What about that? The guitar and everything. And I see a keyboard in the background there. Do I? Yes.
Yeah. I'm not very good on that. That's really just for recording and stuff. So my let me repeat a previous episode. I at 5 years old, I guess, I had a plastic guitar, which really was a ukulele. It only had 4 nylon strings, but it did have portraits of the 4 Beatles on the front of it.
Right.
And I had a plastic Beatle wig, which, as you can see, I could do with now.
elastic beetle wig. Now that is impressive.
So I went to nursery school, I think it was. It was that young, kind of 4 years old, 5 years old, and I used to put my beetle wig on, and I had my beetle guitar, completely out of tune, and just bashing it really, more of a percussion instrument. But I started playing properly at secondary school.
Yeah.
A friend of mine started playing guitar. Very quickly decided that the instrument he had wasn't up to snuff, and passed it on to me as he bought a new one. So I had this 12-string guitar with 6 strings on, because if you put 12 strings on, it used to bend like this. And even with 6 strings on, the action was so high that it would slice your fingers. Hold it down anywhere near the fret. And we used to do covers. We played Beatles songs and Bob Dylan songs and stuff, and then formed some bands. We had a band. There was a folk concert at school, and we formed a band, and we did a version of Greensleeves that was a combination of me doing vocals in the style of Telly Savalas and backing singers throwing toilet rolls out into the audience. We were in a lot of trouble.
They sounds radical.
So one of the teachers put on the fire alarm just to end the concert. It was that bad.
That sounds marvelous. Were you the first? Were you a proto-punk?
Proto-punk.
Do you think?
Yeah, we were punks before. Well, I suppose we were after Iggy and the Stooges, but we were before the Clash and the Sex Pistols. So yeah,
that's excellent.
Irreverent. So yeah, that was possibly the worst version of Greensleeves that has ever been performed. And then so I wrote my first song when I was I don't know, probably 20, I think.
Right.
And then it was about another 20 years before I wrote my second song.
You don't want to rush into these things after all.
So I kind of I did some guitar and singing, a little bit of recording as well, in my late teens and up to my early 20s, and then marriage, work, kids kind of got in the way. And it's probably about 20 years ago that I started practicing guitar again, and I bought myself some recording gear and just kind of learned a little bit about how to do multi-track stuff and but I mean, really, songwriting properly hasn't figured in any volume until lockdown. And it was March 2020 when, with time on my hands, suddenly I started to write a lot of songs and produce an album, and as part of a duo. And now I do singles that are solo stuff, and
that's quite unusual, because a lot of the people I've spoken to in the last 70 episodes have said completely the opposite.
I know, that's why I thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, that's quite interesting,
because I find that interesting. So these are people who are seasoned songwriters.
Well, not necessarily about songwriting, but actually just doing something.
Oh, just performing and playing.
Just sort of getting to the beginning and thinking, all right, well, now at least I can do something. I can get onto recording, or I can get onto doing more writing, or I can do this. And I know I did. I mean, when it first happened, I remember saying to Leslie, because I'd been thinking about trying to go on a songwriting retreat or something, and I said, well, I won't be gigging. And we can't go out, so I might as well do it. And at that point, I went to total lethargy.
Wow.
And, everything sort of, the old phrase about if you want something doing, give it to a busy person. Well, the opposite works as well, that if you've got nothing much to do, everything expands to fill that space. So you're quite unusual in that you actually... There's been a couple of people who've done that, but the majority the majority occupation seems to have been procrastination, basically.
Yeah, I know. Certainly, I'm part of a Zoom group on a Saturday evening that singer-songwriters, poets, various things, and we've been doing that really since the beginning of lockdown. And that's kind of similar. So the people who had been writing songs stopped writing songs.
Yeah, or didn't accelerate at the rate they thought they would with all that free time.
I mean, but some of them really just hadn't done anything. Just kind of killed that whole creative spark. But one or two of us, with the mirror image. So
excellent. So what are you going to start with? What's going to be your first song? What's the story?
What shall I start with? Right. Well, as we were talking about origins. why don't we start with this one, because this is so in the process of songwriting, I don't know, everything I read says you have to compose the melody and get the chords, and then let the music speak to you and create the words. And I write the words and then I put music to it, which I know some people do. Now, so
I don't think there's any rules, to be honest.
No, I know. But I'm struck at the number of people who say, not just I write the music first, but the number of people who say you have to write them, as if it is a rule.
Yeah,
and,
that's strange.
I find it intriguing. But so this is an example of a song where I had some snippets of ideas that I put in my little notes. And some of these snippets are to do with early memories, as we were just talking about. But the song ended up as something very different to all of that. This is called Citizen of Nowhere.
Okay.
Waves in the horizon been calling to me ever since I was a young child, lived by the sea. My first memory is wanting to break free. Couldn't escape from the chains holding me. Citizen of nowhere, lost without a home, prisoner of everywhere, caught up in this storm. All alone, trapped behind this fence, can't get past the gate. Everyone ignoring me, resigned to my fate. Running for too long, can't find my place. No one remembers me, left it all too late. Citizen of nowhere, lost without a home, prisoner of everywhere, caught up in this storm. Citizen of nowhere, lost without a home, prisoner of everywhere, caught up in this storm, all alone. Caught up in this storm, all alone.
Nice song, and Kath Harney thinks so as well. There you go. and a message from Eddie Cook. Actually, both those people are on the show next week. That'd be interesting.
Oh right.
So you started off with that with some snippets, some lyrics.
So and again, one of my early memories that we lived in the oldest house in this town. I was born in Stranraer in Scotland, and it was a 16th century, 17th century cottage that was damp as anything, and an outside toilet and all this kind of stuff. And it had a metal railing fence at the front, and I can remember being in my pedal car, age 3 or 4 or whatever. And trying to speak to a policeman that was walking past, who ignored me, and that hurt. I mean, that scarred me, that memory.
Right.
I remember that to this day. So that was in there. That's the bit. There's a bit in there about being trapped behind a fence and can't get past
Yeah.
it. Because the other thing that I remember was that at the end of the street was the sea. It was sort of,
All right.
a bit down a hill,
Yeah.
and there was a quality to the light from the reflected light off the water that attracted me. I just had this desire to kind of walk down the road to get there. Anyway, so I mean, I think originally I was going to try and write something autobiographical, and then I thought, well, who'd be interested? And it's really quite dull. But then I thought, well, maybe just this idea of being trapped and being ignored, and maybe it's the experience of other people in
Well, interestingly enough, that your response to it is exactly what the song's about. You said who'd be interested in it, because that's exactly what you're starting from. So it's got a nice sort of circular logic to it.
Yeah. So,
but I think
I don't know if you find this, but the when you start out writing a song, you may even have a very clear idea of what the story is, or what the message is, or what the point is. But very often, once you've played around with the words and you've sung it a few times and altered it and hacked it, it ends up being something different. It wasn't always what you thought it was going to be. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned something before we came on air about a song which you'd written about something that other people not misinterpreted, but interpreted in their own way, as being.
So that's it's my current single.
There you go. Give it a plug.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about 2021 is nobody can make money in the music industry, but everybody can be in the music industry.
Yeah.
And as long as you've got some kind of reasonable recording gear and you can find your way around DistroKid or whatever, publish stuff, you can release it. So I released a song last month called "Not Fighting," and the cover art that I chose, if there was going to be a cover, it's only a digital release, but the picture that accompanies it on Spotify and Apple Music and so on is from a political protest. It's a bunch of protesters blockading a construction, and you could interpret it as a response to politicians making decisions that are kind of out of your hands, and are you going to participate or are you not going to participate, and all that kind of stuff. But then I played it a few times, and people interpreted it as more of a personal song, more of a troubled relationship song, and it isn't not fighting the government, it's not fighting the other party in your dispute or in your relationship. So I mean, that could be true. I did earlier in the year. I released a song, "Song for Chris," which was about a friend of ours who died sadly, but she'd been in an abusive marriage, a difficult relationship, and then got into another one. And it's kind of tragic, really, how that kind of stuff happened. And maybe this could be about that. That if you're in a difficult relationship with people, then at some point you just give up fighting back, and you kind of give in and accept it, or you give in and run away.
But not the misinterpretation, but the reinterpretation of songs. I mean, the one completely different type of thing is there was I think it was in the 80s. It was a hit single by a band called Stretch, called "Why Did You Do It?"
Yeah, I remember.
And it sounds like a relationship song, but in fact it was about an abortive tour by Fleetwood Mac.
Really?
Yeah, apparently what had happened was that Fleetwood Mac was falling apart for all sorts of reasons, and Mick Fleetwood had arranged this tour of the States as Fleetwood Mac, but then he pulled out as well. So when the band got there, there was nobody from Fleetwood Mac in it. So it was, they got, nothing happened. They didn't do any of the tour, etc. But the guy who wrote the song was one of the people who was involved in that. So it was why did you do that thing to me? And if you reread Once somebody told me that, I went back and reread the lyrics, and you think, right, so that's what they were talking about. But, I mean, that's a huge leap of interpretation in that instance.
I mean, I guess it's always a bit risky to quote Bono, but he was being interviewed about U2, and I can't remember. There was one of their particular songs, and they said, well, it could be interpreted as a religious song, or it could be a love song. And he said, well, yeah, that's right, and it is. It's both. It just depends on the listener, really. And in the form of a song, and I mean, poetry is the same, isn't it? There's very few words. It's a very short piece of text, and you do have to edit, and you do have to leave detail out, and so I guess it leaves a lot of gaps for interpretation.
Yeah. Well, I remember reading one of Alan Lomax's books some years ago, and he was saying that a lot of the blues songs, although they were ostensibly about, principally male singers complaining about how badly their wives were treating them, a lot of the time what they were actually talking about was their employers. But they couldn't actually say those things about their employers because they just end up losing their jobs. So they couched it in those terms. So that's quite
those old songs, not just blues songs. I mean, folk songs as well, I think. And even here, I mean, back in the probably the 1930s, was it? People like George Formby. I mean, their songs apparently were pure and innocent and jolly, and but they're actually quite racy and very often full of double entendres and things.
Oh God, yeah. There was a lot of that. But also the interesting thing with Formby is that the films that he featured in were all government sponsored.
Well, right.
They were all made by the COI, the Central Office of Information, and they were part of war propaganda. They always had the same sort of themes about the fifth column and careless talk costs lives, which was a complete fabrication because there was very little evidence of there being German spies in Britain. But in order to get the war into the right pitch, so to speak, the COI did all these films with Formby, who was a massive star. Apparently, he was earning more than most Hollywood stars at the time.
Wow!
And when he died, and bear in mind his whole act was taken from his father, and he hated it to begin with. He just didn't want to do it. When he died, 250,000 people turned up to his funeral.
That's amazing.
Which is extraordinary.
Well,
but moving on from George Formby.
Just to link right back to the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah.
Another kind of early memory of mine was my grandfather singing the Jewjar Tree to me at my 3rd birthday, and that was a George Formby song.
Was it? There's not one I know. I have to say.
Yeah.
It's
so yeah.
Yeah, he was a massive success. But
if somebody had said, what are you going to talk about tonight? And I'd said George Formby. No, I didn't expect it to go there. Anyway.
Frankly, neither did I, but there you go. Excellent. So, what about another song?
Okay, well, let's do some shameless promotion, and let's do Not Fighting as that came up in the conversation.
It did indeed. Is it you pinging or me?
I tried to switch off everything that pinged.
Yeah, it must be coming from this ending. I'm not sure what, because my wife's got the phone. Anyway.
Maybe it's people objecting to the material.
No. The only comments we've got is people saying what a nice song it was, and hello.
Okay. Hello. All right. How shall I do this? I'll do that size. Right. This is Not Fighting.
Okay.
Did you read Machiavelli? pale imitation prince. Seen how you misled me with your power to convince. Oops. Conflict rising from nowhere. I'm suffering fatigue, offering nothing but warfare. Seeds of doubt sown by intrigue. I'm not fighting anymore. Didn't sign up for your war. All my protests you ignore. I'm not fighting anymore. No excuses, you departed. Guess you couldn't take the heat. Cut short the fight you started. Retreat avoids defeat. I'm not fighting anymore. Didn't sign up for your war. All my protests you ignored. I'm not fighting anymore. Enjoy plotting your mind game. Rewrite history, deny the truth. You claim revenge is not your aim. Eye by eye and tooth by tooth. I'm not fighting anymore. Didn't sign up for your war. All my protests you ignored. I'm talked out, tired and bored. I'm not fighting anymore.
Yeah, nice. Like the it's the melody actually conveys the feeling really well. You know, I'm not. It's sort of, yeah, I like it. Phrasing's nice. It's like, oh, I've had enough.
Yeah, so is it political or is it personal? I don't know.
Well, yeah. I can't think. I'm sure I've quoted this before. I think it was a photographer called Joel Meyerowitz who said that he didn't care what people saw in his pictures, and if somebody said to him, "Well, you know, I think what I'm feeling here is this," he'd say, "Oh, that's interesting." Leave it at that.
Well, yeah,
So,
you know.
are you hearing bleeping at that end?
I can hear a kind of an email ping in the background.
Oh, that's what it is it? Right.
Or yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but it's something like that. I'm just having a look to see if I've got my phone's on silent.
Yeah. No matter. Okay.
I haven't got anything running that should ping on the computer.
No, me neither. No matter. We shall press on regardless. The you mentioned to me something the other day, which I've been intrigued about ever since. Was this project you have about a specific, well, not so much a song, but an album, a dare I say concept.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I am in the throes of trying to record 2 songs.
Right.
About Amelia Earhart, the aviator. And it's something I've wanted to do for a long, long time. I don't know if you're familiar. I came across an album in mid-1970s. It was only a couple of years old at that point, by a band called Plain Song.
Oh, right, yeah.
which was
I do
Ian Matthews, who'd been in Fairport Convention, and he'd had a hit doing a cover
And then
of
Matthews Southern
Woodstock.
Comfort.
And Matthews Southern Comfort.
Yeah.
And kind of a well-known British country performer called Andy Roberts, who played with
great
bands
guitar
like
player.
Grimm's and so on. Yeah, really good, really strong guy. So they were
was he part of what was the comedy band from Liverpool?
Grimm's.
It was the
Scaffold.
Grimms. It was
Yeah.
right. I didn't know
So Scaffold, I think, and
Yeah.
the remnants of the Bonzo Dog
Yeah.
Doodah band
Yeah.
kind of coalesced as
Yeah.
Grimm's. And
I'd forgotten about Andy Roberts.
Andy Roberts was part of that crew.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
So sorry, you were saying about this album.
Yeah, so they released an album, 72, 73, I'm not sure, something like that, called In Search of Amelia Earhart.
Right.
I wasn't familiar with her. But, I mean, the album's only got 2 songs about her on it. It's not,
Right.
it looks like it's an album about her, but it's not. It's 2 songs about her. And those songs are still played. I go to a bluegrass thing occasionally on a Sunday, and worryingly called Banjos in the Backwoods. Somebody there played one of those Amelia Earhart songs there a couple of weeks ago. So they are still doing the rounds. But that kind of piqued my interest. And my interest really is around... She had an amazing life. She achieved an awful lot of things that she shouldn't have achieved at that point in time. And she's kind of remembered now for her disappearance. And the disappearance is clouded in lots and lots of conspiracy theories. And I kind of wanted to write a song just to say, look, it's quite simple. The plane crashed. And there's good reasons why. There's no conspiracy. It's just tragic, it's just sad. And I just felt that a lot of what she had achieved as a proto-feminist, maybe. I mean, she helped push the cause of women's independence forward, I think, immensely. A lot of that was kind of getting overshadowed. So I couldn't really work out how to do it. Anyway, during lockdown, I finally came up with an idea. And by the time I'd worked out all of the things about her that I wanted to write, I really needed to write a book. And it was going to be probably a 40-minute long song, which is crazy. So with the help of my colleague in the duo that we were working on a project with at the time, I kind of edited it down. And the song ended up not what I wanted. The song ended up just being about her disappearance.
Right.
And so then I wrote another song, which started at the beginning.
Right, yeah.
And again, just skimmed the surface, really. So there may be more to come at some point in the future, but I think 2 Amelia Earhart songs is enough for anybody, really. So and so I started recording the first one over a year ago, and I've had various attempts at collaborations which haven't really come to fruition. So at the moment, it is I've recorded the kind of the basic tracks. I've got a violin player in Yorkshire that might be adding some improv violin to it. I've got a colleague that I've met through Twitter in Texas, who is currently working on it with his wife. They're a band called the Kintners in Henrietta, Texas. And she's going to put the kind of authentic American vocal
Nice.
to kind of capture Amelia Earhart's voice. And he's adding some American style Americana guitar to it, because I can't really do that. And yeah, we'll see. And it's now grown. He's added a song that it's a kind of a historical biographical song, and he's got a half-written song about Ramses, the pharaoh, that we're now collaborating on, and there may be another one. Anyway, so it's probably going to end up as an EP of some description.
Ramesses and Amelia Earhart. Look,
I know.
did you expect us to go via George Formby to Ramesses?
We're covering quite a lot, aren't we?
It's what conversation should be about, is it?
It
Thoroughly
rambles
enjoying
here
it.
and it rambles there. So yeah, so that's. But again, you see, I mean, it's interesting. You start out with an idea, and it's very easy to be overambitious. You know, what can you achieve in a 3-minute song? You can't write somebody's life history.
No.
You can only do sketches, and so that's maybe just a lesson for me as an inexperienced songwriter, really.
Well, but maybe that's sufficient, is the sketches, and the fact that you know, as you say, you can't get a book full of information into a song, but on the other hand, you can pique somebody's interest.
Yeah, couldn't it?
And that I would have thought is sufficient, really. If you can achieve that, I think you've done something. Although I'm just dying to see the artwork for the album that's got Ramesses. Ramesses II, was it?
Ramesses II, yeah. Well,
he was the big lad.
I did sort of gently suggest today that maybe it could be 2 EPs.
I think that's a safer
more
bet.
Thematically coalesced in some way. So yeah, yeah. But that's the nice thing about collaborations, isn't it? You know, you get different ideas, and again, it's a bit like the conversation. It kind of goes off in different directions. What we'll end up with, I have no idea. But
I can understand that. After
a year, I am kind of keen to put this recording to bed and get it released, because it's been going on a long, long time.
You know? That's the other problem with collaborations. I mean, I'm involved in a couple of them that have emerged over lockdown, because I'd never. As I said, I think I mentioned last week, I have done some work in the past, but it's always been sort of co-assembly rather than where, you know, I've done the music and they've done the words. But I've co-written one song with somebody that worked quite well. But the ones I'm involved in at the moment, one of the people involved is in Scotland. One's in the Czech Republic. I'm here in Manchester, and the other one is a Russian guy who divides his time between Paris and Astrakhan. So he's hard to pin down. So we're having a lot of problems trying to take the next step forward with this one. So it's wow. So are you going to sing the song for us about Amelia, or is that not? Is it not?
Yeah, I should do, shouldn't I?
If you'd like to.
Let me do the second one that I wrote. Let me do the one about her early life, because I think that's kind of
chronological.
Or I might do both. Who knows?
Oof.
But yeah, let's
live dangerously.
So this one's called Amelia Found.
Okay.
That's out of tune, isn't it? Why has that gone out of tune? I don't know. Anyway. 24th of July, 1897. Amelia Mary first cried to the sky. Get down here, Amelia, said her mother with a glare. Climbing trees is for boys, what's with you, my dear? Girls whose tastes aren't routine don't get treated fair. Driven from so young to be a pioneer. When the pilot flew at you to scare you away, lit a spark so soon you would conquer the sky. You paid with courage for a fair restless day. Stood your ground, hid your fear, now destined to fly. Amelia, you charted your own course with your willpower, coolness and speed, rejecting the rules they tried to enforce. refusing to follow, you took the lead. You said adventure's worthwhile in itself. Your own thought and action was the goal. Chasing your dream, you left doubts on the shelf. Open doors to the future through trust in your soul. Amelia, you charted your own course with your willpower, coolness and speed. Rejecting the rules they tried to enforce, refusing to follow, you took the lead. Rejecting the rules they tried to enforce, refusing to follow, you took the lead. Back from school to the year 1927, Amelia would once again fly so high.
Nice, I like it. I didn't realise I shared a birthday with Amelia Earhart.
Really?
24th of July. Yeah.
1897 as well, or just the day?
No, a few years later. Yeah, not many.
Just thought I'd check.
Yeah, interestingly, Kath Harney's written, she's on our list of people to write about too. So there you go.
Well, you know, there's so much to write about. I mean, I've scratched a little bit of the surface.
Yeah, that's quite interesting.
I mean, the lockdown thing that inspired me to actually start writing the song was discovering that she had volunteered 1918 to be a nurse I think in Canada for servicemen who had returned from the First World War and survived the war and then contracted Spanish flu in the Spanish flu pandemic.
God, yeah.
And as a volunteer nurse, as you might expect, she then contracted Spanish flu, and as a result of that, got some kind of ongoing sinus problem, which meant subsequently, when she was flying, she used to have excruciating pain in her face and her head because of this blocked sinus that was a side effect of that, and flew with drains and catheters and God knows what else, just to try and manage it. But it didn't stop her from achieving what she achieved and breaking the record she broke and being so that was what was going to be in the song, and it's not ended up in either of them. But so if you want to use that, Kat, you're welcome.
That's interesting. I mean, it's what I mean. Apart from the album that you saw, did you have an interest in Amelia Earhart beforehand, or was that what triggered it off?
No, it's just I think it was. I was intrigued by the songs and why somebody would produce an LP named after this pilot, and then I kind of read a bit about her life and thought, oh right, okay, this is quite unusual. She. I think her philosophy was, regardless of what society's rules are. Don't tell me that I can't do anything a man can do. I can. If I put my mind to it, and any woman can achieve anything a man can achieve. So stop trying to put me in a box and stop trying to make me I like that attitude. I like that kind of appealed to me as a 19-year-old rebel. And then it stuck.
That's interesting. Have you thought about other sorts of biographical songs, or have you done any other biographical?
Not yet, because this one was so difficult and so painful. I mean, it appeals because I think, Bob Dylan, Blind Willie McTell, for example, just amazing storytelling and fabulous subject matter, and so I'm sure I will return to trying to write something, but I think it was a lesson well learned that if you take on a big subject, it's very difficult to condense to a song. It's much better to pick a detail or an episode or an idea.
An episode sounds like a good way of doing it, because I was just thinking sort of structurally, if there is something that's happened, you've got the setup, the occurrence, and the aftermath, and the lesson to be learned. So you've got, off the top of my head, this strikes me that there would be a way of approaching it in some sort of form.
Yeah, and it, you can put that into a song structure, and
exactly. Yeah.
So we'll see. Who knows?
So what is the immediate plan then for your musical ventures?
August, I think. I actually managed to get out and start performing again. Oh no, sorry, no, we did open mics back in June. That's a lie. But did an actual gig in August in a church with do you know John Jenkins from the
Timeless group? I did one of his as well up in Leek.
You did the one in Leek, right?
Yeah.
So he did his UK tour to promote his album. So I was on the Cambridge leg, and pal of mine that's in a couple of bands that I'm in called Eric Haynes came and played double bass.
Oh right, nice.
Which sounded great in the church. The acoustics.
Yeah.
Were great for that. So that went down well, and we had a bit of interest from local radio and did some interviews and stuff around it.
Oh, nice.
So it was just great to get out and play live again. And I just have this sort of feeling that it's not going to be possible for much longer. We're going to get much more restrictions again soon.
Yes, yeah. We've been having this. Leslie and I've been having this discussion as well as to what will be happening at Christmas. And I know that the politicians are saying we're not having Christmas cancelled, but I don't think they're in a position to say that really. And I think it is going to go back into that. I mean, having said that, things certainly in this area musically, things have sort of opened up at an incredibly quick rate, and lots of places putting lots of music on. And going at it hammer and tongs basically, which is great. But like yourself, I'm a little bit skeptical as to how long it can carry on.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got I try to do a variety of things, and then that way you're not kind of too wedded to any particular thing. So I'm continuing to write songs, I'm continuing to record songs, and try them out on these Zoom sessions, which is a good way of testing them and kind of knocking them into shape before you commit to some kind of recording. To try and improve my guitar playing, I've joined a bluegrass band,
right?
Which gives you some
the flat
picking techniques that maybe I've missed out on in the past. And again, it's some great material. I mean, some of the songs that are in the bluegrass catalogue are amazing. And then out of that, we're now in the throes of starting an electric country band.
Right.
And on the back of that, probably a more kind of traditional rock and pop party, wedding, function
right.
band. We've had a couple of rehearsals which have boded well.
Right.
And that's great to, so I like doing the acoustic stuff, but it's been many a year since I've stood in front of a drum kit and an electric bass and electric guitar and kind of, been deafened, so that's kind of interesting.
There's a whole spectrum of things going on there. I was thinking when you said before about playing with a double bass, because I can picture a nice string bass player with your acoustic stuff.
Yeah, so for the solo material, absolutely that worked really well. And
it's a very empathetic instrument, I think.
Yeah, and Eric kindly agreed to play. He's a much more accomplished musician than I am, but he agreed to play with me. So he can play double bass, he can play dobro, mandolin, banjo, piano, accordion, and then out of the band, out of the electric band, the lead guitarist Pino is he's a professional, session player, and has in the past been a recording engineer. So he's now quite keen to get involved in helping me improve what I do with my recordings. And
Excellent.
That'll be, I'll learn.
Brilliant.
I mean, I think mainly my main thing in all of this is learning. I'm just learning about songwriting, learning about performing, learning about playing, learning about collaborating. It stops you from stagnating.
Absolutely, I'm all for that. So listen, would you like to do one more song for us?
Sure. Yeah. We can do. I could do the other Amelia one, but I won't do that. I'll do this one. Right, I'll do this one. I call this my greatest hit because somebody covered it. And, that's. I stole that from Neil Innes, who the late lamented Neil Innes from Bonzos. Who?
I tell you, talking about bands, that's who I was thinking of in terms of Andy Roberts was Liverpool Scene.
Liverpool Scene, yes, he was in Liverpool Scene.
Yeah, that's right. Because I remember seeing them at festivals and things in the 70s.
Liverpool Scene, Scaffold, and remnants of the Bonzos coalesced into Grimm's. Yeah. Yes, Liverpool Scene. I've heard of that.
That's the one I was trying to think of.
You're absolutely right. Okay, so this is a song that actually we recorded it as part of the duo. So I had this project in lockdown called Luna Thorn with another local musician called Amanda de Burgess, and she had 5 songs, I had 5 songs, and we kind of edited each other's a bit, and I sort of did the recording and the production, and she did the harmonies and what have you, and so she sang her songs, I sang mine. We did this album Luna Thorn, which had an early version of this song on it, and so there's a couple of things in here, but shall I do the song first and then we'll talk about that if
Go for it.
Anything comes out of it? Okay. This is called Birdsong. When things are looking bleak, you're feeling all is lost. Friends say carry on, but you worry about the cost. Tried to fly above the clouds, but you fell into the sea. Can you hear a swallow singing somewhere inside of me? I will be your mainstay. You can rely on me to keep you afloat on any stormy sea. Keep heading for the lighthouse, hold tightly to this road. Listen to the bird song, it's there to give you hope. Listen to the bird song, it's there to give you hope. Listen to the bird song. So cold it's worse than winter, but spring is on the way. Your home's off in the distance, but you'll get back one day. When pain is too much to bear, grief swallowed you up whole. Listen to the swallow singing deep inside your soul. I will be your mainstay. You can rely on me to keep you afloat on any stormy sea. Keep heading for the lighthouse, hold tightly to this rope. Listen to the bird song, it's there to give you hope. Listen to the bird song. It's there to give you hope. Listen to the bird song. Keep heading for the lighthouse. Hold tightly to this rope. Listen to the bird song. It's there to give you hope. Listen to the bird song. Listen to the bird song.
Nice. Excellent. Nice song. Now, was that one that you said you worked with the other person?
Amanda.
Was that still your song? Did you just sort of treat,
Yeah, that was.
You weren't. They weren't co-written.
No. I mean, the greatest extent of the collaboration in songwriting was really editing. It was change this word. Yeah. Not sure about that line. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
There are some songs that maybe we had more input on than others. This one really didn't change. Her main input was to say, when you perform it, don't say that it was inspired by an Emily Dickinson poem. So I didn't just say that. But, so that's where it gets. So there was a line in one of her poems about hope being a tiny feathered thing inside or something.
Right.
And I just like that idea of this kind of a bird inside. And then I thought, well, hope, swallow is a symbol of hope. And anchor's a symbol.
Why did you think it was a bad thing to say?
Well, there's a big thing about let's try not to come across as pretentious, because quite a lot of the songs had some big words in and some.
I noticed you got Machiavelli in the early one, which I was quite impressed with.
That, well, I've written that one since the collaboration. That would not have passed the edit, That would have been,
well, the reason I'm intrigued with that is because I have a similar feeling about one of my songs is it's called "Where's the Why," and it's from a quote from Nietzsche, who said, "If man has a why, he can sustain anything." Basically, the idea being that you need to have a goal in life, sort of thing. Yeah. And as a result, I don't think I've ever actually said that on stage. But I don't feel so bad about it now, on the basis that I've since discovered that Nietzsche also said, "Whatever doesn't kill me makes me stronger," which is quoted left, right, and centre by people all over the place. So I may ease that one into conversation, but carefully and choosing my venues carefully.
Well, I lost my aversion to describing the inspiration for it, because I did a songwriters circle thing on Zoom, probably. Yeah. Quite a while back, a few months back, and I was going to do Birdsong. I decided that was one of the songs I was going to do. And about 3 songs before me, this woman came on and she said, "This isn't completely my song." She said, "I've written the music, but I've actually set a poem to music, and it's a poem by Emily Dickinson, and it was the same poem." And so that was kind of an interesting conversation. You've set the poem to music. I've taken one idea from the poem and written this from it, and so it's okay. We can admit where inspiration comes from, and that we've stolen ideas from other people.
Well, I'm always quoting this. It's attributed to various people, but I think I'll leave it with Michelangelo about what is it? Artists steal, amateurs merely borrow. So I think if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for us. Absolutely. So, Steve, thanks very much. Thanks for joining us. Do keep in touch and let us know what's happening. And let us know what's happening. I'm dying to find about Amelia meets Ramesses II. It's kind of if anybody's got any suggestions for sleeve notes for that.
Pretentious, moi.
Moi. Yes. No, I think it's two separate albums, really.
Two separate EPs, definitely.
Yeah.
But
so
thanks for inviting me, and
yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
I really enjoyed it, and I enjoy your company. I look forward to coming along to one of your gigs next time you come to Cambridge. I missed
Right.
that.
Yes, I'm looking forward to. Yeah, well, we're still trying to maintain until we go back into lockdown our idea of being of doing staycations based on gigging. And we're off to the Lake District tomorrow, which will be nice. So Steve, thanks a lot, and look after yourself and keep in touch. Okay, cheers, mate. Excellent. That was good fun. Well, I really didn't expect that. Neither did Steve. The conversation to float through George Formby, Ramesses, Amelia Earhart, and Emily Dickinson. I think it's a pretty good circular journey, that one. So that's it from me for this week. Next week I've got. I forgot to mention that. Oh, there's a very good song comment here for you, Steve, if you're still listening. Anne Francis Rooney, written very good song. There you go. Yes, so next week I've got Kath Harney and Pam who will be working together, and I've got Eddie Cook and David Fee from Home Songs. So we're in the round again next week. So do keep in touch. Please drop me a line. If you can join the group as well, that would be useful, because we can sort of send out more information, because I'd like to get some other activities involved in it. If any of you out there involved in, songwriting circles or any sorts of, collaborations, and you want to get in touch and maybe we can do something together, then please do. In the meantime, look after yourselves and stay safe and have fun. Bye, people.